Hey, hi, hello. Welcome to Diana Emerson Today. We're listening to Disturbing Cases. True crime.
It is a place where modern amenities and a rich history seamlessly coexist. This city is home to major sports teams, including the NBA's Oklahoma City Thunder. Despite the tragic events of the Oklahoma City bombing in 1995, Oklahoma City has experienced fluctuations in its crime rate over the years, with crime rates being higher than the national average. And it was in this town that the incident happened, which shook the people to their core. To go back to where it began on February 12, 1989, Christian Hatfield was born to her mother Shannon Hatfield in Oklahoma County. Not much is known about who her father was. Shannon soon became a single mother, and she lived with Kristen's uncles while raising her daughters, Kristen and Faith. In 1997, Kristen was a second grader at Traub Elementary School in Midwest City, Oklahoma. On May 13, 1997, Kristen's mother, Shannon Hatfield, followed their usual bedtime routine and tucked Kristen and Faith into bed around 11:30 p.m. Little did Shannon know this would be the final moment she would see one of her daughters. She left the bedroom door slightly open and went to bed. Around 3 a.m. in the morning, she heard strange noises coming from the girl's bedroom. Though the thought of Faith talking in her sleep came to Shannon's mind, she still went to investigate. But by the time she reached the room, the noise had stopped. Oddly, she noticed that the door, which she had left slightly ajar, was now closed. Reluctant to disturb her daughters during the night, Shannon went back to sleep, a decision she would forever regret. The next morning on May 14, 1997, around 6 to 6:30 a.m., Shannon went to wake up her girls. Kristen's sister Faith was asleep nearby, but Kristen was not in her bed. She was missing. Shannon searched around the house. She asked Faith where Kristen was, but she knew nothing. Kristen's mother immediately called the police to report her disappearance. 911, what's your emergency? My daughter, I woke up this morning and she's not in her bed. She's missing. She's 8 years old. Has she ever left before? No, never, never. Except for the faint whining Shannon heard earlier, no one else in the house heard anything suspicious like a scream or signs of a struggle. It's believed that Kristen had already disappeared from her room at that time Shannon heard the noise. If her mother had looked inside the bedroom when she heard the sounds of faint whining, she would have seen that Kristen was gone. They could have started searching earlier and perhaps discovered something sooner. But this was not realized until the next day when Kristen's mother noticed something unusual. The bedroom door was closed, which was not normal. The police initially considered the possibility that Kristen had left the house on her own during the night. They speculated that she might have gone to a friend's house, taken a walk around the neighborhood, or visited a nearby park. Although it may have seemed unusual, there were cases where children had left their homes at night and wandered around, only to be found later. However, in Kristen's case, the police's assumption turned out to be incorrect, and their initial theory was proven wrong. Upon examining Kristen's room, the police noticed that her window was slightly open and found a small bloodstain on the windowsill. They searched the house and the yard for clues. Outside, they discovered Kristen's bunched up underwear against the fence, also stained with blood. It was evident that Kristen hadn't simply wandered off on her own. She had been abducted, putting her in immediate danger. The police understood the urgency of the situation and knew that time was critical. Kristen was last seen at 11:30 p.m. the previous night, and her disappearance was discovered at 6:30 a.m. the next morning, a span of 7 hours where anything could have occurred. The police quickly began searching the neighborhood, questioning neighbors about any sightings of Kristen or any unusual activity during the night. One resident reported hearing dogs barking around 2 to 3 a.m., but didn't find anything suspicious when he investigated. Blood samples from the underwear and windowsill were sent to the lab for analysis. Surprisingly, the results indicated that the blood did not belong to Kristen. It was from an unidentified male. Now, Kristen's mother was a single mom. Kristen and Faith lived in their uncle's house with her. Shannon also had a history of drug abuse. Kristen's uncles and their families were not very fond of Shannon. Considering Kristen's family issues, the police didn't exclude any family members as potential suspects or individuals who might have knowledge about her disappearance. They thoroughly investigated everyone and followed up on every lead and tip they received. However, none of these avenues yielded any significant information, leading to a quick stagnation in the case. Over the years, Kristen's name faded from the public conversation, and she became known as the girl occasionally featured on missing person flyers around town. Nonetheless, her family remained determined to find answers, and the police were equally committed to not giving up on the case. 18 years after Kristen's disappearance, in June 2015, a new team joined the investigation into Kristen's disappearance, taking a fresh approach. They decided to resubmit the DNA samples found on the window and the victim's underwear to the database. With advancements in technology as time passed, they hoped to find a match. DNA analysis was still developing in the late 90s, so someone who wasn't in the system then might be now. Chief Brandon Claves of the Midwest City Police Department had an unwavering determination to solve the case. Detective Daryl Miller also felt a strong connection to it. Miller and Brandon agreed to work on the case together. They possessed a complete male DNA profile from the crime scene, matching the bloodstains on the window and the underwear. Their first step was running the DNA samples through COIDIS, the Combined DNA Index System. Unfortunately, they did not find a match, but they remained hopeful. They had a list of approximately 100 men to consider, since the DNA belonged to a male. They eliminated individuals who were clearly not involved and focused on those who seemed suspicious. They planned to visit them and collect DNA samples for comparison to the DNA found in 1997. One person of interest was a 55-year-old Anthony Palma, the neighbor who recalled hearing dogs barking around 2 to 3 a.m. on the night of the disappearance. Initially, he wasn't deemed suspicious during the questioning in 1997 when he was 38 years old. Palma claimed he was at home when Kristen went missing, going to bed around 2 to 3 a.m. after hearing the dogs barking. In 1997, he was questioned due to his proximity to the Hatfield home and his alleged yard work for them, which he oddly denied. He also denied knowing Kristen's mother. In June 2015, investigators decided to revisit Palma. His wife mentioned his emotional reaction to Kristen's disappearance and his familiarity with the family. Palmer recalled seeing a white Chevy truck at the Hatfield home the day Kristen vanished. He agreed to provide a DNA sample via a mouth swab. On July 22, 2015, the Oregon State Bureau of Investigation confirmed that Palmer's DNA matched the DNA found at the crime scene.
In July of this year, we received a report from OSBI that indicated the blood sample from Kirsten Hatfield's panties and also the blood on the windowsill matched Anthony Palma, and the match was 1 in 293 sextillion.
As investigators reviewed the old case file, they discovered discrepancies between the information provided by Palma and the contents of the file. They couldn't find any documentation indicating that his house had been searched in 1997. Detective Miller received the results and he exclaimed, Anthony Palma was the killer. The DNA from the windowsill and underwear matched Palma's, despite his claims of being deeply affected by the case. He had lied to the police. They had never searched his home in 1997, raising suspicions about what might have been found then. Initially, Palma denied knowing the family, but Kristen's mother remembered a conversation with him that left her uneasy. However, in her heightened state after her daughter's disappearance, she hadn't considered him a likely suspect and viewed everyone as strange and suspicious. But the friendly neighbor Palma already had secrets hidden in his life's history. Anthony Palma was born in 1959. The police found out that Palma had already served a year and a half of a 5-year sentence, long before he even lived beside the Hatfields. During his trial, another woman testified that Palma had drugged and assaulted her when she was 17. This revealed a pattern of troubling behavior. Authorities then delved into Palma's past and found disturbing incidents. In 1980, he was suspected of breaking into his girlfriend's sister's bedroom, assaulting her, and escaping before getting caught. The police saw his truck parked nearby, but lacked evidence for an arrest. He violently assaulted and attacked his landlord, leading to a conviction for assault and battery. Shockingly, Palma had been living near the Hatfields' home for 7 years. Christian was just 1 year old at the time he had moved there. Authorities were both thrilled to connect him to the case and stunned that he had been right under their noses all along. The impact on the family could only be imagined. Returning to the case by October 12, 2015, the investigators had gathered enough evidence to interview Palma. They asked him if he remembered anything unusual about the day, or even before Kristen's disappearance.
I need to find her. I need to find Kirsten. Help me find her. I can't help you.
Palma responded by denying any involvement with Kristen or her family, except for seeing a white truck in front of their yard. He claimed that he typically spent his time working on his yard and fixing neighbors' bikes, but denied calling the kids over to his house. He mentioned having a daughter named Tristy, who often played with the neighborhood kids. When asked if he had seen Kristen and her mother Shannon around the neighborhood, Palma claimed to have seen Kristen playing with another girl named Crystal, but he couldn't recall the specific time frame. He stated that he was generally cautious around people and didn't pay much attention to who was there. Palma denied having any interactions with Kristen, never recalling helping her with her bike or talking to her. He asserted that he didn't know Kristen or her family and wasn't aware of how long they had lived there. On the night of May 13, 1997, Palma said he didn't leave his house. He mentioned that his dog barked at the back fence, assuming it was due to the presence of other animals or dogs in the area. Palma didn't investigate further and simply called the dog inside before going back to bed.
I had a dog in the backyard about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. He went to raising hell. He woke me up, and he was barking at that back fence. I just hollered at him, and he came in, and I went back to bed.
Palma expressed suspicion towards Shannon for leaving the house, believing that she should have stayed in case Kristen returned or received a call. Palma brought up Shannon's drug use and mentioned allowing her brother, who was helping search for Kristen, to stay at his place temporarily. When asked if Shannon's brother confided in him or provided any useful information, Palma denied it. During the interview, the investigators confronted Palma with the DNA evidence. His DNA was found on the windowsill of Kristen's room and on the underwear discovered in the backyard. Despite his earlier claims of never being in the backyard or having any contact with Kristen, Palma's repeated denial and lack of explanation for his DNA being present raised suspicions. Although there could be legitimate reasons for his DNA to be found in someone else's backyard, Palma's previous statements contradicted the evidence, leaving him with no credible explanation.
Honey, your blood is on her window. Your blood is on Kirsten's pants. I don't see how that could happen. Your DNA is in the backyard the morning that she was discovered missing. Okay? No, not me. I wasn't in that backyard. I don't know how my blood could have been there. Tony, you were there. This is scientific evidence. It's not a debate.
After 18 years, on October 12, 2015, the same day after his interrogation, Anthony Palma was arrested and charged with the kidnapping and presumed first-degree murder of 8-year-old Kristen Hatfield. During the trials in 2017, he pleaded not guilty, but on October 13, 2017, he was found guilty.
We are just, I can't explain it, but we are just floored by this miracle, and we are so...
On November 27, 2017, the jury convicted him, and he received a life sentence without parole. Surprisingly, he chose not to appeal his conviction, which is unusual for someone claiming innocence. Despite multiple opportunities, Palma refused to disclose the location of Kristen's remains. Shannon, Kristen's mother, wrote to him in prison 3 times, but he asked her to stop. On January 11, 2019, Palma was strangled to death by his cellmate, who was serving a life sentence for first-degree murder. He was 59 years old. Although Palma likely knew where Kristen's remains were, the family still hoped that someone else might have received that information and will come forward. Shannon displayed compassion by expressing forgiveness and not wanting Palma's life to end in such a manner.
I'm not celebrating Anthony Palma's murder. I'm not celebrating that, and I actually am praying for his family.
The case was considered solved, although the location of Kristen's body remained unknown. One lead suggested her body might be buried in a neighboring town, but a search yielded nothing. Palma's house was thoroughly searched inside and out, but no evidence was found. Inside the house, they did find children's teeth, but they belonged to Palma's own daughter. As he had kept them after playing the tooth fairy. Kristen's family chose to forgive Palma for what he had done, hoping that their forgiveness would lead him to reveal the location of Kristen's body. Unfortunately, he never did. She had already expressed her forgiveness in a letter to Palma, wishing he would find it in his heart to provide the information they sought. The abduction of Kristen Hatfield was a case that made the alliance of forensic science with criminology more substantial. But Kristen's body is still not found. Oh my God! Did you feed your sister that?
Ulster 911, establish emergency.
I'm in the front door of a Planet Fitness in Kingston. I'm looking for my husband, and I found him in the car. I don't know if he's hungry.
Are you able to get the door open?
The door's not unlocked here.
Are you able to check to see if his chest is going up and down?
I don't think it is.
It was the morning of November 29, 2011, in Ulster County, New York. 44-year-old Thomas Coleman was found dead within his car in the parking lot outside the Kingston Planet Fitness Gym in Ulster County, New York.
When I was told that my father died, everything I had ever known changed in a second. My dad was an amazing father to 4 kids and a great man. At first, we thought it was a heart attack, something natural but sudden.
Tom's sudden death sparked a gripping investigation, unveiling a twisted tale of secrets, betrayal, and possible foul play. The drama intensified as suspicions fell upon someone unexpected. As we delve into this enigmatic case, we're left wondering, will the truth behind Tom's demise ever be fully revealed? Our case takes us to Ulster County, located in New York State along the Hudson River. This county is named after the Irish province of Ulster, with a population of 181,851, according to the 2020 census. The county seat is Kingston. The county boasts a diverse demographic makeup. The majority of the population speaks English as their primary language, while Spanish, Italian, and German are also spoken. Ulster County is a vibrant community rich in history and cultural diversity. It was right here that our case took place. But first, it all began when Thomas Coleman was born on March 22, 1967, in Queens, New York City. He attended Stony Brook University after graduating from West Babylon High School and obtained his undergraduate and doctoral degrees from Damon College in Amherst, New York. He had lived in the neighborhood for more than 20 years and worked as a physical therapist for Always There, as well as Optum Health's physical therapy department as the director of utilization management. Michelle Coleman Weber was Tom's first wife. They remained close after the divorce. They both shared children named Jillian and Bradley. After his divorce with Michelle, Tom married Linda. Linda already had a child, Brooke, from before she married Tom. However, Linda and Tom were also blessed with a son they named Ryan. At 44 years old, Thomas Coleman was a man who cherished the simple pleasures of life. Parties and wild nights out held no allure for him. Instead, he found solace in the warmth of his family's embrace. For Tom, quality triumphed over quantity. He found a true friend in the dentist, Dr. Gilberto Nunez. Their journey began during a tumultuous period in Gilberto's life, as he navigated the treacherous waters of a difficult divorce. Seeking solace, he found himself drawn to the Coleman family, finding refuge in their unwavering support and genuine companionship. Thomas Coleman and his wife Linda forged a life filled with love and laughter, and it seemed like everything was going well for them. But fate can be cruel, and tragedy struck when Thomas Coleman's untimely death shocked those who knew him best. The parking lot of Planet Fitness, a popular gym in Kingston, Ulster County, where locals gathered to sweat away their stress, became the backdrop for a perplexing event on November 29, 2011. It was his wife, Linda Coleman, who first grew concerned when her attempts to reach Tom went unanswered. Like clockwork, he would embark on his daily fitness routine at the Planet Fitness gym before heading to work. Worried, Linda ventured to the familiar location, only to find Tom's car parked in the lot. But as she approached, a horrifying truth began to unravel before her eyes.
Ulster 911, see this emergency. I'm in the parking lot by Planet Fitness in Kingston. I'm looking for my husband and I found him in his car. I don't know if he's hungry. Are you able to get the door open? The door's not unlocked here. Are you able to check to see if his chest is going up and down? I don't think it is.
Linda found her husband dead in his car. At first glance, it appeared that Tom had succumbed to the merciless grip of a heart attack, given his weight and the common health issues that plagued men his age. It seemed a logical conclusion. But as the investigation unfolded, unsettling details emerged, casting doubt on this initial hypothesis. Tom lay motionless in the driver's seat, as if in a peaceful sleep. His car was parked quite away from the gym's entrance, despite the parking lot being empty. This peculiar positioning of his vehicle stirred suspicion among the investigators. Something strange was happening, and they had to figure out the mystery behind Tom Coleman's sudden death. As the authorities delved deeper into the case, another figure entered the scene, compounding the intrigue. Tom's friend, Dr. Gilberto Nunez, arrived at the scene to offer his condolences. I'm just really upset that, my best friend was dead. Detective Michael Thomas, one of the first to arrive at the scene, couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. The positioning of the body in the unusual parking spot baffled him. What secrets did his lifeless form hold? As experts combed through the car for clues, their efforts yielded no signs of foul play, no struggle, no evidence of distress. Yet, the distance of the car from the gym building raised eyebrows. Who would park their car so far away when they intended to work out in the morning? The detectives knew they were dealing with a confusing case. The mystery deepened when the autopsy results revealed an unexpected twist. Thomas Coleman had died with midazolam, a sedative primarily used by medical professionals, coursing through his veins.
Something happened to him. The doctor labeled it as acute midazolam poisoning. Poisoning? Yes. Midazolam. What's midazolam? It's a conscious sedative. It's used in hospital settings, also in dentist office who do oral surgery.
Meanwhile, the police reviewed the recordings from the cameras near the parking lot, and at one point it was parked near Coleman's car in a mostly empty lot. The detectives in charge knew it was the same SUV that Tom's friend, Nunez, drove to the location. 3 days after Coleman's death, the detective asked Nunez to come in to the police station for questioning. Detective Thomas wanted to know more about Nunez's life and his connection to the victim. Nunez started talking a lot and confided in the detective. After a few minutes, Nunez admitted to having an affair with Tom's wife, Linda. Nunez and Linda had been engaged in an affair for a year before the tragedy. The tangled web of deceit grew more intricate as Dr. Nunez confessed to assuming a false identity, posing as a woman named Samantha and sending explicit photos of the affair to Thomas. It was a desperate attempt to break the marriage and claim Linda for himself. This occurred some months before Tom's death. Nunez learned that Thomas was planning to employ a detective to look into Samantha's letter, so he offered his office's IT guy $500 to pretend to be a CIA computer expert and meet with the Colemans. Nunez then told them that he knew someone who could determine the source of the text. The IT specialist was supposed to display a fake CIA badge. But when his plan failed, Dr. Nunez resorted to confessing everything. He admitted to Tom that he was the one who had sent the compromising photos and begged for forgiveness. Astonishingly, the two men remained friends, continuing to exchange a flurry of text messages in the days leading up to Tom's death. After learning of the affair, the detectives felt the need to investigate Nunez. What they discovered was alarming. Gilberto Nunez, hailing from the Dominican Republic, was not only a respected volunteer firefighter, but also a highly regarded dentist with a thriving practice. Those who had the privilege of working alongside him spoke highly of his professionalism and calm demeanor. Mary Ellen McManus, who had spent over a decade as Nunez's dental hygienist, attested to his gentle nature, emphasizing that she had never witnessed him lose his temper or succumb to anger. But beneath this serene facade lay a story waiting to be uncovered, a tale that would challenge the perceptions of those who thought they knew him. As the investigation continued, the lines blurred between loyalty, love, and obsession. With the presence of the white SUV in the footage and the drug found in Tom's system, suspicion turned to Dr. Nunez. After Nunez confessed to his affair with Linda, the investigators got a search warrant to search Nunez's office. They found midazolam in Nunez's possession. This was the same drug found in Tom's system during the autopsy. Dr. Nunez was arrested on suspicion of second-degree murder, a little under 3.5 years after Tom Coleman's passing.
They suspected Gil Nunez, who was my dad's best friend, who we had met, who we knew. It was shocking.
By May 2016, the stage was set in the courthouse of Kingston as Mary Ellen Albanese, the prosecutor, took center stage. She cautioned the jury that the evidence she presented would be purely circumstantial. No eyewitnesses, no fingerprints, no DNA. But she assured them that she had a wealth of character, motive, and method to lay before them. Albanese's case began to weave a web of evidence, starting with the discovery of the midazolam in Thomas Coleman's system. Yet even this theory had its weakness. The amount of the drug was insufficient for a lethal dose, rarely inducing light sedation. For it to be deadly, it would have required the presence of something else. Thomas Coleman's death further complicated matters. He struggled with various medical issues, including obesity, an enlarged heart, and sleep apnea. Nunez, in a recorded interview, had voluntarily provided information about Coleman's condition, emphasizing its seriousness. Little did he know that this seemingly innocent disclosure would become a pivotal element in the case against him. Albanese argued that Nunez had exploited Coleman's sleep apnea, counting on it to worsen the effects of the midazolam. It was a brilliant solution to address the challenge of the low drug concentration. However, for Nunez to be convicted, the jury would have to believe that he possessed the cunning to devise such a plan, the ruthlessness to execute it, and the recklessness to risk its failure. After all, there was no guarantee that Coleman wouldn't wake up, questioning what was in his coffee. Albanese continued to present the bad acts committed by Nunez before the murder, aiming to establish a pattern of behavior. Nunez had sent emails to Linda impersonating his own mother. He did this before Tom's death to convince Linda not to leave him. While undoubtedly strange, the act came across as more peculiar than malicious in the courtroom. And even the failed meeting between the Colemans and the alleged CIA expert, arranged by Nunez, seemed more inept than sinister. As the trial unfolded, all eyes were on Linda Coleman when she took the stand. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation as she began her testimony. The haunting recording of Linda's 911 call resonated through the courtroom, dispelling any lingering doubts about her potential involvement in Thomas's death. The evidence of her affair with Nunez primarily consisted of love notes, posing a challenge for Linda as she assumed her new role, now testifying against him. Undeterred, she plunged into her testimony with gusto. At one point, she said that Nunez's habit of giving gifts was actually a dark character flaw. She revealed that he had showered her with jewelry, clothes, and financial support, even offering financial aid to Thomas for his divorce payments and education. Yet Linda saw these gestures as indications of sinister motives. With startling venom, she proclaimed, Gil was all about money. He was the one always pushing money on people, always insisted on paying for everything. Every time I saw him, he would give me money. Albanese, the prosecutor, delved into another episode involving Nunez's manipulation. She questioned Linda about the earlier instance in which Nunez had orchestrated a fake CIA scenario. Some texts were sent to Linda insinuating that Thomas was being unfaithful. Disconcerted, Linda sought answers, and Nunez offered to investigate. Outside a Holiday Inn, he presented her with a letter, allegedly from a CIA agent. Linda dismissed it as sounding like a 2-year-old wrote it. But Albanese sought to exploit the incident to illustrate Nunez's manipulative character. Under further questioning, Linda admitted that she eventually came to see the letter as a genuine CIA document. As Linda's testimony continued, some jurors couldn't contain their amusement, with hands covering their face to stifle laughter. The surreal nature of the situation, where a poorly crafted letter held weight in a murder case, was not lost on them. The proceedings took on an air of absurdity, a dramatic twist in an already complex and captivating trial. Albany seized upon the complexities of the love triangle, recognizing the wealth of material it provided. The incessant communication among the three individuals involved created a vast trove of evidence from which selective narratives could be woven. Albany's line of questioning was aimed to portray Linda as a married woman who was initially swept off her feet but was gradually regaining her senses. This portrayal had some basis in reality. Linda was undeniably torn between her feelings. In an 11-month anniversary card to Nunez, she wrote about the depth of their journey together, their secret heights. Yet she also conveyed signals of wanting to end the affair. Nunez responded with both patience and torrents of affectionate declarations. However, there were occasional messages that held a more ominous undertone, hinting at a refusal to let her go. Amidst this emotional turmoil, Linda and Thomas embarked on a weekend trip with their children to the Mohegan Sun Casino in Connecticut. This excursion took place on November 12, 2011, a little more than 2 weeks before Thomas was found dead. It proved to be a turning point as Linda realized she still loved her husband and acknowledged the selfishness of her actions with Nunez. The trip became a pivotal moment in the narrative of marital repair, amplified by a series of tender emails exchanged between the Colemans 2 weeks later, the day before Thomas's death. These messages seemed to support the idea of Linda wanting to break things off with Nunez, but fearing his reaction. The emotional intensity of the situation was palpable, as Linda expressed her intentions while Nunez pleaded and begged for her not to leave him. As the trial reached its critical juncture, a startling revelation emerged, challenging the prosecution's narrative. Evan Lipton, Nunez's defense attorney, skillfully exposed a stark contrast between what Linda conveyed to her husband, Thomas, and what she communicated to Nunez. While the prosecution presented messages implying Nunez's agitation and a sense of impending doom for their affair, Lipton presented a different side of the story. Throughout their trip to Mohegan Sun, Linda was sending Nunez affectionate messages expressing her love and longing. Nunez, however, wasn't encouraging her to leave Thomas. He urged her not to make any decisions until after the holidays, respecting her wishes. This portrayal began to cast doubt on the prosecution's depiction of Nunez as a dangerously obsessed lover, instead painting him in a more level-headed light. The exchange of messages between Nunez and Linda continued as even the Colemans purportedly worked on reconciling their marriage. On one occasion, Nunez texted Linda, expressing the lingering sensation of her kisses. Linda responded playfully, seemingly surprised by her own words as she read them out loud in court. It was a moment of self-reflection, a realization that her version of reality might need to be reassessed. Even in the hours up to Linda's discovery of Thomas's death, she and Nunez were discussing personal matters, such as her period, a topic not typically broached after a breakup. The jurors appeared stunned, grappling with the conflicting narratives presented to them. Their gazes often turned to Nunez, a source of bewildering surprises, hoping to uncover the truth behind his somber and enigmatic expression. In a courtroom filled with predominantly white faces, Nunez shared his belief that race played a role in the attempt to pin Thomas's death on him, claiming that he was subjected to racial slurs during his arrest. However, the police vehemently denied these allegations. In the climactic stage of the trial, the prosecution presented a significant piece of evidence. Video footage supposedly proving that Nunez's car, a white Nissan Pathfinder, was indeed outside the gym on the morning of Thomas Coleman's death, a fact that Nunez had vehemently denied. Grant Fredericks, a forensic video analyst specializing in headlight spread pattern analysis, took the stand to provide his expert insights. The surveillance footage showcased the route from Nunez's apartment to Planet Fitness, capturing a white Nissan Pathfinder with a distinct fog light pattern. The video revealed the vehicle passing various businesses along Albany Avenue, its fog lights unevenly dispersed, one light striking the ground closer than the other, a fault in the mounting. Shortly after, a motion-activated camera at Kohl's next to Planet Fitness recorded an unidentified vehicle entering the gym's parking lot. Although the car's make and model couldn't be determined, one of its lights shared the same defect as Nunez's Pathfinder. Eventually,